Jim Emery here at the stadium today at St James Park, and it's I believe 55 years since you've been back here at the club. What's made you want to come back here today?
Well, it's always, Rick, been an ambition of mine to return to the club here. I was a young 18-year-old kid coming from Belfast, and in those days there was no TV, and it was every kid's ambition to become a full-time professional footballer, and Exeter City gave me that opportunity. I came over a couple of months on trial, and then I went back home and didn't hear anything for about 6 weeks. The club then brought me back over again for the July pre-season training. The manager in those days was Frank Broom, and the whole thing must have gone quite well because I got signed as a full-time professional. And it's a great story I always tell, Rick, if you'd maybe like to hear it. The club had reached their limit of signing. Their number was 28 full-time pros, and I was being brought in by the board that night to be given my decision, and they'd already got the 28 signed. So I thought, well, there's little chance of me being taken on at the club here. But lucky enough, it turned out the board decided to sign me, and I'll never forget reading the Express and Echo sports paper that Saturday night, where it said, now that Exeter City are signing Jim Emery, the wage bill has reached a staggering £500.
How times have changed.
£500, unbelievable. And my wages then would have been £8 in the reserves and £10 in the first team, which was a lot of money, a lot of money.
And you look around the stadium today, I imagine, you obviously here yesterday as well, so I imagine it's been a great experience for you, just some old memories coming back, flooding back as you've been walking around the place.
Yeah, well, I must say, it's 55 years, as I said earlier there, Rick, from I was at the ground here, and when you look around, now, the outside of the whole place hasn't changed, the houses, the railway line, the whole ABCDs and that line, but the actual ground, I think the atmosphere on a Saturday here, it must be tremendous, because you've got the new stand here, you've got the stand at the back here. That used to be an old training ground at the back there, where as well as the football being played, there was a couple of good world title championship fights occasionally.
But as you say, so it's just great, isn't it, to sort of see something you haven't seen for such a long time, just to kind of I imagine walking up to the stadium, for example, must have been amazing. It is.
The warmth of the people inside the stadium, let me add, Rick, has been the welcome that I have received here is in itself extremely special. But to come in here, to look around here, and there's so many memories flooding back to me, because I found the warmth of the people here. I always wanted to come back, I always wanted to return, and I was 75 yesterday, and this is a present from my wife and the family. They gave me a surprise ticket to flight by your sponsors, Flybe from Belfast, and the rest history.
So, you say you mentioned the manager who was here. Tell us maybe about some of the players who were here.
I mean, one of the best footballers at that particular time. I mean, his passing skills, his vision, his awareness. Arnold Mitchell. Arnold was the captain of the club. And when I look back on it now, and when I retired from football, and I had the great fortune to work for Brian Clough and Peter Taylor as our Irish scout with Derby County. Yeah. And when I look back and think of if Arnold had been playing in those days and in the modern day today, he would have been worth a fortune, because the quality of that man on the ball, and as I say, the passing skills. You've Nelson Stipple, who was an outstanding winger, played with Bournemouth and became very famous in the FA Cup. You had Ted Callan, centre forward, strong, physical, no nonsense guy. But in those days, you know, when I look back now, I think there were better players in those days. But if those players had today's training methods and today's ABCDs that go with the game, and probably, Rick, today's wages, I think it would be a great world to have those guys being seen.
Absolutely. And your involvement was chiefly in the reserve teams, and of course in those days reserve team football was such a huge deal. The first team would have been away and you'd have been here at the park playing in front of thousands of people.
Well, there was always, it would have been a bad gate if there wasn't 3,000 at a reserve team game. And you had, I mean, your sides now, Burton, Dover, Kidderminster, all those sides that have actually hit the Football League. In those days, Rick, they were all full-time professionals. And if you had a row with your Football League club, you were able to walk out of those clubs and go to a non-league club. And the wages they were paying would have been 4 or 5 times what you would have been getting playing for the Football League side. So you can imagine some of the great league players that were actually playing at that time. But it was a brilliant league for a young pro like myself to be involved in. And then on a Wednesday night, there was the Southwestern League where you played against the Penzance and the sides. And you'd have had 1,000 people here on a Wednesday night, rain, hail or shine. It was brilliant.
So where did your career take you after Exeter City? So you spent about a year and a half almost here. And
I moved to Barrow, which from Exeter, believe me, was a total different world, you know. And I was there for 18 months, and then I moved to Walsall, and from Walsall down to Weymouth with a very famous manager, Frank O'Farrell. And then from Walsall, or from Weymouth, it was back to Belfast, where I managed a couple of Irish League clubs, and was very lucky that Peter Taylor, who I'd met earlier in England, got in touch with me when they were managing Derby County, and they had asked me about a couple of players over here, and I had the very good luck to recommend a player, Arthur Stewart. Brian Clough came over himself to watch him, and they signed him straight after the game. And when you get a player signed by Brian Clough, believe me, it laid a great foundation for me in my scouting career.
Am I right in thinking you either Gary Haylock as well, one of our coaches? You know Gary too?
Well, Gary, I must say, Gary, back at home, Gary was a prolific goal scorer in the League of Ireland as well as in the Irish League. And I'd gone down to a League of Ireland game, and the team that I scouted for back in Northern Ireland was Linfield. And Linfield would be the top side in Ireland, not just Northern Ireland. And of course I went down and watched Gary in a couple of games, and we signed him for, I think it was £40,000. A lot of money for Irish League clubs. But Gary scored, I think it was 62 goals for us in the period that he was at Linfield. And good guy, good pro, great professional.
So you've obviously you've been back in Devon. Must be I guess this is the first time you've actually been back down this part of the country, I guess, for that period of time.
It's as I said earlier to you, Rick, it's just being back here again. It is just so special. And in the later years of my career there, I was lucky enough to work in Ireland for Howard Kendall, and I would have been over at Goodison Park probably once every 2 months, where they brought you over to look at the reserve team as well as the A team, which would be the under-21s now. And any players you recommended, they had to be better than what you were actually seeing there. So it was a great policy. But the same warmth, the warmth that is displayed at this club, and the people who have given me such a welcome here, I am just over the moon, Rick.
Fantastic. So it seems like a really good day at the stadium. And what's the plans for your rest of your day? All right, you were talking just a moment ago, you're going to go down to Dawlish Beach.
Oh, there's a wonderful story, Rick. I don't know if you've got 2 hours to listen to it, have you?
Your bridge version will be fine.
Rick, as I told you when I got signed as a full-time professional here, I'd brought these set of trunks over, you know, and they're a wee bit flashy, you know, and the team, the 28 pros of us, were actually part of our pre-season training was done at Dawlish Warren on the beach down at Dawlish, and afterwards, and you didn't have the shower obviously, so you went into the sea swimming about. Of course, I'd put these these special trunks on, and they were quite a hit, I can tell you, and with all the lads. But there was a couple in particular. The young outside right in those days was Eric Welsh, who later moved from the club to Carlisle United, and Eric had a great career. But when we're in the sea swimming about there, these trunks, I could feel an expansion taking place, and they started widening out like a balloon. And of course the next thing I noticed was they were gone off me, totally naked. Now Dawlish wore, and this was the afternoon, the beach was bunged with holiday makers, and I thought, how am I going to get out of here? I'm in big trouble. So I made the great mistake of shouting, Eric, would you come over quick? And I'm swimming about. I said, Eric, you know those trunks? I said, the bloody things have come off me. I said, they've expanded and gone. Are you in the nude? I says, Eric, I am. Oh. And he swam away, and he was swimming all around the players individually, and the next thing I saw was 25 full-time pros leaving the beach, leaving the sea, heading over to where the bus was to take them back to Goodison Park, to St James's Park, and they were all waving at me, and I'm in the sea, no escape. I thought, what on earth am I going to do? But it all worked out well in the end, because a lad who was swimming around, I told him the story, and he must have thought, this is an absolute headbin I've got here. But he went out, he got me a towel, and the guy actually finished up getting me trousers, a pullover and shoes to get me back to St James's Park. But the reception I got when I arrived up here will live with me forever, Rick, I can tell you. In fact, you see the cheer went up when they got the game against Manchester United at Old Trafford. It wouldn't have counted with those 28 pros over there.
Well, let's hope if you're going to go back to the beach this afternoon and turn my parents.
I will really bring old memories back there, Rick, I can tell you. Super.
Absolutely. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to welcome you here today, and all I can say, hopefully we'll be seeing you at a game here sometime soon, hopefully.
Yeah. I'm hoping to come over for the South End game in April, really, so that is something to look forward to. But again, Rick, the people like yourself and the people like Andrew and Paul, the welcome and Mike in the shop, the welcome that I've been given here, I've got to get back again to say thank you.
Brilliant. Well, we'll look forward to that. Thank you ever so much.
Many thanks.
Many thanks.